Say tricks.
Our super is Shadow Shot Deadfall for weakening and suppressing our foes when things get too hectic or during boss phases to help our team dish out 15% more damage. Our super is paired with the Fragment Facet of Purpose so that we will receive an overshield whenever we pick up an orb. It only takes 2 orbs for us to get a full overshield. For our class ability, we will be running Marksman's Dodge to reload our weapons when activated. This works even when we are using Ascension. Ascension will jolt our enemies and grant us the Amplified buff. We will be using Snare Bomb paired with the Facet of Dawn. Facet of Dawn will grant us Radiant for 20% more weapon damage for 5 seconds on top of weakening our enemies for 8 seconds. Since our grapple melee counts as both a grenade and a melee, it will also make us Radiant. We will be pairing Ascension with Threaded Spectre so that after we jolt our enemies, they will then be distracted by the decoy from Threaded Spectre, allowing for easy cleanup or for us to escape should we need to. Since we are using the last word, we will be running the Facet of Grace so that kills with the last word will grant us bonus Transcendence. Facet of Hope causes our class ability to regenerate faster depending on how many elemental buffs we currently have. One elemental buff boosts our regen by 40%, while having 2 or more will boost it by 60%. This pairs exceptionally well with our aspects and our dodge by allowing much more uptime of these abilities. It also creates a loop with Ascension because Ascension grants us Amplified, which will boost our class regen by 40%. Lastly, we have the Facet of Balance so that rapidly defeating enemies with light damage will grant us 10% melee energy, and while rapidly defeating them with darkness energy will grant us 10% grenade energy. This will help us tremendously with our ability uptime, but will be a major boon for our melee energy because, as you will see later, our melee stat will be quite low. Our exotic armor will be the Lucky Pants. While a hand cannon is readied, the Lucky Pants will grant 20 points of airborne effectiveness while also increasing our sprint speed by 6.25% and our slide distance by 33%. But the real star of the show is the illegally modded holster buff. This buff is granted to us for 6 seconds upon readying a hand cannon. Direct hits on enemies will grant additional stacks of the buff up to a maximum of 10 stacks. Illegally modded holster grants us several effects. We will receive 100 points of ready speed handling and an accuracy cone reduction of 30%, meaning our shots will have a tighter overall grouping. But most importantly, each stack of illegally modded holster will grant us 45% more impact damage against our enemies. This maxes out at 450% when we have all 10 stacks. After illegally modded holster expires, we will receive the Out of Luck cooldown for 10 seconds, which prevents illegally modded holster from being activated. It is worth noting that we only receive the Out of Luck timer if we reach at least 7 stacks of illegally modded holster. 6 or less stacks will not trigger the cooldown. We will be pairing our Lucky Pants with not 1, but 2 hand cannons. First up is the greatest yee to ever haw, the last word. Hip-fired precision hits with the last word deal an additional 30% damage. Hip-fired hits also grant a stack of Fanfire for 4 seconds up to 4 stacks. Fanfire further reduces our accuracy cone size and boosts our reload speed depending on the number of stacks acquired. These buffs do stack with the Lucky Pants buffs, but Fanfire stacks will be lost if you aim down sights, reload, or stow the last word. Our second hand cannon, and don't tell the last word I said this, but the real damage star of the show is the Phoneutria Fera. The Phoneutria Fera is a new spread shot frame hand cannon. My roll comes with Barrel Constrictor and Incandescent. This perk combo really makes the Phoneutria a beast at ad clear. Kills with the weapon reduce our pellet spread by 20%, which makes it easier to get kills at an increased distance, while Incandescent will scorch the enemy down and provide the occasional ignition for serious room clearing power. We will cover how to properly rotate these 2 hand cannons in just a few moments. For the heavy slot, I went with my Watchful Eye with overflow and jolting feedback. If you've seen my recent builds, you may have noticed I have been using this a lot lately. It's because I get a lot of utility out of it this season by allowing me to stun 2 different types of champions. Jolting feedback can stun overload champions, and if I become Radiant, then I can use Watchful Eye to stun barrier champions. Then I have my 2 hand cannons to handle unstoppable champs. For our armor stats, we will prioritize weapons, class, grenade, and super in that order. We want as much weapon stat as we can get, but you want at least 100, which is all I could manage by the time I made this video. Then we want 100 class and grenade. You do not need more than 100 class, but having more than 100 grenade is great. Then get your super as high as you can. To accomplish these stats, I used one each of Specialist, Gunner, and Grenadier armors in combination with an old pair of Lucky Pants and gauntlets. The goal is to have a full set of tech sec so that our last word can shred through shields and disorient enemies. On our helmet, we have 2 kinetic siphons and 1 solar siphon so that both of our hand cannons print plenty of orbs. On our arms, we have 1 firepower so that our grapple melee will generate an orb, and 2 momentum transfers so that our grapple melee will grant us 17% melee energy. This is on top of the 10% we get from the Facet of Balance. On our chest, we have 2 resistance mods depending on the current activity and 1 charged up mod so we can have up to 4 stacks of armor charge instead of 3. On our legs, we are boosting our YEEHAW damage by having 1 kinetic and 1 solar surge for a 10% damage boost to each hand cannon while we have armor charge. Then 1 better already so that picking up an orb will cause our health to begin regenerating. This pairs extremely well with the overshield we get from the Facet of Purpose. Having the overshield prevents our health regeneration from being interrupted unless we take enough damage to lose the overshield. On our class item, we have 1 time dilation so that our armor charge lasts for 1 minute at full stacks, and 2 powerful attractions to allow us to grab orbs up to 18 meters away when using our dodge or ascension. When entering combat, use your hand cannon of choice to clear out any weaker adds. When it is time to handle a more chunky enemy, you want to start on your Phoneutria Fera and wait for the illegally modded holster buff to disappear. Now, throw your snare bomb at the enemy to weaken them and make yourself radiant. Then, switch to the last word and empty all 8 rounds into the enemy and immediately switch back to Phoneutria Fera to lay down the damage. You can easily deal out 10,000 damage with this rotation. During boss phases, instead of throwing your snare bomb, you will begin the fight with your grapple melee if you are able to do so safely. This is so we can become radiant for some additional damage. Otherwise, begin the fight by casting your super. You do not need to start this rotation from Phoneutria Fera, as casting your super triggers the illegally modded holster buff to begin. So, be sure to be on the last word before casting the super. Then, fire all 8 rounds into the boss's noggin and then switch to Phoneutria Fera to deal out the big damage. Then switch to your heavy and empty it into the boss. Now cast Ascension to jolt the boss and reload your weapons. Throw your snare bomb at the boss and begin the rotation again until the phase is over or the boss has died. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, y'all.